It was a major revelation allegedly made by the Chief Director of the Lands Ministry, Professor Patrick Agbesingyale, who is said to have told a parliamentary committee that the state has been engaging the services of notorious land guards to retrieve and protect state land. MP for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Sohoyini, has told journalists. Now, in return, these notorious land guards are paid with parcels of land. Al-Hassan Sohoyini, who is also the deputy ranking member on the Land and Forestry Committee, describes this arrangement as illegal and contrary to the Land Act and the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act. In a swift response, the Ministry of Lands says it rather engaged the services of a private company to protect state lands and not land guards. More from the statement shortly. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us with the details. He will be joining us shortly with all of those details from Parliament. But let's share with you the details of this statement. But before then, we have been engaging Al-Hassan Sohoyini on this matter.
When in our engagements with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Chief Director revealed shockingly, that the ministry has resorted to engaging a land guard to retrieve and protect government lands. And mind you, these are lands that are held on behalf of the people of Ghana, vested in the president to protect it. And I'm sure that the framers of the Constitution are aware that the president is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and is seized with the capacity to ensure that these lands are protected for our, communal use. And that is why the lands are vested in the president. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is the ministry tasked with the responsibility of overseeing these lands. So for the ministry to tell us the lack of capacity of the state to protect these lands that are, put in trust, but to resort to, the services of people whose activities have been outlawed for the protection of these land came to us as a surprise. We have therefore demanded from the ministry the terms and conditions of that unholy relationship between the ministry and this land guard or his institution. Because clearly, we cannot pass laws that we do not intend to keep. And again, when we pass laws to sanitize any area or development in our country, we do not expect the state to be the first to break those laws.
That's Al-Hassan Sohoyini speaking to us there. Now, Kweku Asante joins us via Zoom. Now, Kweku, what is the nature of this allegation and so-called revelations made to the Land and Forestry Committee of Parliament?
Right. So, Brace, you first heard him there talk about how the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, as the ministry in charge of protecting state lands, being actually the one engaging so-called land guards allegedly. They also actually go ahead to say that it is not actually just the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, but also even the Ghana Police Service and the military also engage these land guards whenever they have any issues of such encroachment. Listen to him make that allegation in terms of what the Chief Director of the Lands Ministry is reported to have told his committee in Parliament.
The other shocking part of this revelation was that, according to the Chief Director, it is not only the ministry that contracts the services of this land guard, but also the Ghana Armed Forces and the police depend on the services of this land guard to protect lands that are under their care. And so if the Ghana Armed Forces and the police cannot protect their own lands and have to resort to the use of land guards, what is the faith of the common Ghanaian who wants to acquire land and is faced with the challenge of land guards? And What was again scandalous was the revelation by the chief director that this person that is engaged, actually has a setup that the state cannot compete with. A setup that the state cannot compete with. According to the chief director, he has his own media that ensures that whatever he does, rightly or wrongly, is not exposed for public scrutiny. He has his own members of the judiciary, and so he gets away with whatever law he may have broken in the process of retrieving and protecting land. He has his own security that he deploys on these lands when he retrieves them. And at the end of the day, he comes to sit down with the ministry and he informs the ministry of the cost that he has incurred. And the ministry compensates him by dashing out, some parcels of land from the whole that he has helped to retrieve.
So on this, what is the demand of the minority?
So first, they want the details of this contract or this engagement between the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry and this so-called land guard. They want to be able to know why is it that the ministry, the police and the military are not resorting to state security apparatus, and why are they using a private firm to be doing all this. So they want all those details to be laid out clearly. And then secondly, they've also filed urgent questions in the House to drag the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, to come and answer questions, to come and explain the circumstances under which this so-called land guard was offered this opportunity to be the one protecting state lands and to be the one that is actually ensuring that state lands are not encroached. So they are doing this two-pronged attack in terms of what they are able to get. First, demanding that these details be brought to Parliament, and secondly, filing urgent questions.
All right, grateful to you, Kweku. Now, we have a statement from the ministry on from their response to these allegations. Let's share with you the details of the statement now. It says, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, by this press release, refutes the allegations made by the Daily Post newspaper and the Ghana Web Online News platform on the 17th day of July 2023 on a purported statement made by the Chief Director of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, captioned, quote, Chief Director at the Lands Ministry reviews Ministry of Lands, Military and Police have been contracting land guards, unquote, and, quote, government engages services of land guards, Chief Director of Lands Ministry, unquote, respectively. Now, the ministry would like to set the record straight that government, and for that matter, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, does not contract the services of land guards in its operations. However, the ministry, through its agency, Lands Commission, legally engaged the services of INOC Holding Limited, a registered limited liability company, to assist in reclaiming encroached government lands. This engagement has been in effect since 2012. We wish to categorically state that government, and by extension the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, employs legal processes to reclaim all encroached state lands. So that's the response the ministry is given, that contrary to what we are hearing, that the ministry, the police and the military, by extension government, engages the services of land guards, is not accurate. What is accurate is that the government, through the Lands Commission, engaged the services of a company called INOC Holdings Limited. It's a legally registered entity in Ghana, to reclaim encroached government lands. And that is what they do. That is the fact of the matter. So this is what the government is saying, that what the minority is telling us and what we are hearing is not accurate. The government has been contracting the services of land guards. What they say is that, in fact, it's true that government secures the services of a company to reclaim government land, but it is not as though they are contracting the services of land guards. We'll delve deeper into this particular story by exploring the angle with security experts to understand what they do make of this vis-a-vis what the Land Act says, as well as the Vigilantism Act also says. But once the ministry is saying we are not engaging land guards, then it becomes an issue where is it okay for a security setup like the police and the military to be engaging the services of, a separate entity to reclaim their lands? Once they are security institutions, why are they not able to proceed on that leg? But we understand that the contract is not directly between the police and the military, but rather between the Lands Commission and the INOC Holdings Limited. Adib Sani is a security analyst, and he joins us via phone now. Grateful to you for joining us here. Now, how do you react to these allegations and the response from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources?
Well, I was a bit taken aback by the allegations, because if we now have a law that criminalizes land guardism, knowing the effects it can have, on our democracy, on the issue of law, etc. And it is shocking that none other than a state institution would engage the services of land guards to provide security, or as they put it, to reclaim lands. However, the ministry did categorically state that it was their agency, the Lands Commission, that engaged a limited liability company. But you see, my fear is the land guards clothing themselves with a limited liability company when their modus operandi, the way they do things, is very consistent with other land guards who might not have a limited liability company. And I would have also, at the same time, thought that as a state institution, it is the police, the military, we have other security agencies that could help government or help the agency reclaim government lands. I mean, I do understand that there are ministries, departments, and agencies who acquire the services of private security firms, even at their premises. But for an exercise as sensitive as reclaiming land, for you to use a limited liability company is something that is neither here nor there. I am tempted not to trust the ministry much, especially with that the statement in mind. Because the thing is, issues of land is quite precarious. It's dicey. You get there, and there are land guards who are armed to the teeth, and sometimes they exchange fire even with security services. So for you to engage the limited liability company that is not supposed to wield arms per the Arms and Ammunition Act 1972 NRCB 9, they are not supposed, no civilian is supposed to brandish a weapon without the tacit approval of the IGP. So it makes me wonder in what form do they go, and what exactly their role is, when the police could have provided a much more effective role. So there's a lot to this that I think should be investigated, and the statements should not be taken in hook, line, and sinker. There should be a conscious attempt to conduct an investigation into this matter so we get to know the full facts of the matter.
But are we not creating the impression that every land guard probably works with this company when that may not be the issue?
Absolutely, because what happens is I can conveniently organize land guards to protect my plot or to engage in other services. Then when the police comes, I say, oh, they are staff of the security. As simple as that. It's so convenient. No, I think there's a need for investigation into this matter. But it doesn't just make sense. A state institution like the Lands Commission would engage the services of a limited liability company that might not have the muscle, the firepower to deal with an issue as sensitive as land reclamation. It sometimes becomes very violent, and I've been witness to a number of reclamation exercises. One, the aviation land somewhere around on your way to Butri from Race Junction. I remember that when they were reclaiming it, the military enforcement, the police enforcement, and I guess one person even, sustained gunshot injuries. I don't know if the person died because he was extremely belligerent. So how did you expect a limited liability company to go there, I don't know with what, with sticks, to reclaim land, knowing how dangerous it can be? And on several occasions, we've even had trees, we've had people getting killed because of, confusion over land, Kasua, and so many other places throughout the country. Okay, so I think this is a matter of national security priority. We need to, we don't just have to take it on the face value. No, there's a need for an investigation, and that is exactly what I call for.
So does it make any difference that the ministry is telling us today that this so-called agent has a registered company and possibly being granted permission by the police to be used for its workers to be using these guns, is engaged even when the police and security are there? Can't we draw any sense out of that?
As much as we try, it doesn't just make sense. Okay, it doesn't just make sense for a private security firm to be what we call it, acquired, whose services is acquired by a government agency to reclaim land on behalf of government, when the police could have done this. Okay, I think, like I indicated, there's a lot more to this issue than we know. For now, what we know is the publication about the use of land guards. The ministry has come out with a statement. So it is a matter of he said, she said, someone's words against another person. But the only way we can draw conclusions, we can authenticate who is telling the truth, is for an investigation to be carried out. Because the issue of land guardism has become a national security emergency. They are armed to the state, okay? And because there's a massive proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the system, okay? These same land guards are engaged in other forms of criminality, like robbery. So they would stop at nothing, gunning their opponents down. Okay, so this is something we need to pay attention to. I remember in the past, there was a World Bank-funded Land Administration Project 1, Land Administration Project 2, and a whole lot of money has sunk. Still, we have big issues with the land administration system in Ghana. We're talking about digitalizing it and a whole host of other issues. Yesterday, as we speak, you will have one chief selling one plot of land to 5 different people. You have people with land issues wishing to go to the court, but you go to the court, you'll be in court for 20, 30 years. I know land issues that has been in court since the 1970s. My own brother, he has a land with the title, the other party doesn't have anything. The case was in court for about 20 years. How many people have that patience? So what do? You go and acquire the services of these land guards. So it's a multidimensional issue that requires a multidimensional approach. Hence, it is completely shocking that government that is supposed to play a leading role in nipping this in the bud is rather allegedly engaging their services. I think it's a huge indictment. However, the only way government can clear itself is for an investigation to be carried out.
Are we saying that a limited liability company cannot be engaged in rendering services such as this?
A limited liability company can be engaged in rendering services such as man guards at government ministries, departments, agencies, metropolitan, municipal, district assemblies, but reclamation is a dangerous venture. It involves guns, it involves people shooting people. It involves deaths sometimes. And you cannot use a private security firm to achieve anything tangible. Besides, we would wish to know what is their modus operandi. Okay, because what I want to avoid is us setting a precedent. That would be very dangerous for us, because tomorrow I can wake up and decide to get some young men from urban slums and say, oh, they are working under JTK security.
No, but is that not the first thing we need to do, to understand the modus operandi of this company, to align it and determine whether, okay, it falls in line with whatever they are doing before we could conclude on whether or not the state could engage their services or not?
Indeed, we need to know the modus. But my biggest concern has to do with an issue as sensitive as it is about, reclaiming land and all that. Okay, land has become a very sensitive issue in Ghana. It is a security issue. It is very much part and parcel. In fact, if you take a closer look at the sustainable development goals, most of it has to do with land. Is it about ending poverty? Is it about gender? It's a whole lot. It's mostly about land. So this is an area we within the security sector have paid so much, attention to. Hence the need for us to streamline things and to make things work better. And one of it is the issue of land guardism and how businessmen, companies, how individuals acquire their services to engage in all manner of activities. Okay, fine. Let's know what their modus operandi is. But for an issue as sensitive as this, I bet, okay, that they cannot do it without resorting to certain ways very consistent with land guards in the country.
So how do we deal with this issue going forward in terms of land reclamation?
First of all, like I indicated, you see, it's multidimensional. There are so many issues involved. Okay, when you go to countries such as Rwanda, Uganda, and some other countries, if you see a land you are interested in, just go and stand on the land. They have a central database. You input it, and you know everything about the land, who owns the land. But in Ghana, it's different. We've heard about digitalization, blah, 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 but it's still a major issue. Today, I had 4 different people call me to talk about their land issues with other people. So let's take a conscious attempt to clean up, the land administration regime in the country. Let's get rid of those corrupt individuals whose priority is this to continue to perpetuate the bottlenecks. It's in their interest, because when everything is smooth, they will not make money. So this is to ensure that things don't go right, just like we have it with these people all around DGLE and the rest. Okay, then the issue of law enforcement. We have the laws. We have an anti-vigilantism and other related offenses, and we are yet to see anybody being held to account under the law. Enforcement has always been a challenge. We have the laws on against land guardism. What are we doing about it? Are we enforcing it? Are we ensuring that these persons don't engage in these activities? What are we doing about it? Then it brings us the issue of job creation, because a lot of these young people are from the hinterland. They come to the big cities, Accra, Kasua, Kumasi, Takura. They're hoping for a better life. And when they come and realize that Accra is by plan, it's not as rosy as it is. Because Kofi came to Accra and came back home after a year with a Toyota Camry, doesn't necessarily mean that when you come to Accra, you return home with a Toyota Camry. Okay, so when they come and it happens that way, they become frustrated, they become disgruntled, and that is when they resort to land guardism, vigilantism, etc. So there are a whole lot of issues around it that has to be dealt with holistically or piecemeal if really we want to deal with the issue of land administration in the country.
Sani, for joining us here.